afternoon and welcome to Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. UVM Extension has been providing programming to Vermonters for over a century. Statistics, analytics, and metrics may be watchwords in today's world, but the key to success is measuring impact. The spirit of what have you done lately is our topic today as we spotlight some UVM Extension programs and their impacts on the lives of Vermonters. The work of charting UVM success is the responsibility of Stephanie Albaugh. She's the Program Development and Accountability Specialist with UVM Extension. Welcome.
Thank you.
So your job title is a couple buzzwords, but can you tell me brass tacks, what do you do?
Sure. I get to work with people, like 80 plus people in Extension who are delivering programs out into the community, and I support them in developing those programs and kind of better describing and understanding the why behind what they do and how their programs are helping to accomplish like the broader mission of Extension. And the boring part is that I do like reporting, and so they enter their data into a system that I manage.
And you manage a number of areas. Can you tell us kind of broadly the 4 different areas you focus on when it comes to Extension?
Yeah, so Extension, if you think big picture, cultivating healthy communities is like what we're about. But that's big, right? So we break it down into these 4 areas. One is focused on community development. Another is on like 4-H youth programming and migrant health and education and family programs. Another is on natural resources, so the natural environment. And then the 4th is on agriculture, broadly farms and forest programming. And then under each of those 4 areas, we have a bunch of different programs that help to address broader issues in those areas.
So you collect data on all 4 of those different areas?
Yeah, so yes, yes, and all the programs, right, that exist within those 4 areas. Each of those programs have people, us, Extension, faculty, and staff who are working, delivering different projects. They're educating, right? They're out, there's like, you have Extension folks on here all the time, right? So they are providing education, research-based education out into Vermont, to people, to communities, to businesses. And so it's up to the educators, our faculty and staff, to enter what they do into the system that I manage, and then I kind of compile it all together and better understand the what behind the why.
All right, absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of that system, I think that's what we're about to talk about now. And apparently it strikes fear into the heart of Extension faculty.
Oh my gosh.
Is it peers? Is it pairs?
Pairs.
Pairs. Can you tell me about that program?
Yes. Nobody likes reporting, Jolie. I don't know why. Okay, so PAIRS stands for our Program Evaluation and Evaluation System. So it's a site, really, a tool that lives online and designed for Extension. So there are different extensions in all the states around, and we are one of maybe 17, I don't know what the number is right now, but other states who are all using this same system to track the what we do, the who we reach, so the numbers of people and the demographics of who we reach. But then I think more importantly, we get to talk about the plan of each program. So what are the goals that we're trying to reach and how are we reaching them? So how are we making a difference in each of those 4 broad areas? It means that Extension folks have to go into the system monthly or quarterly or annually, whenever they can, and tell us about what they did.
And this is a database?
Yeah, right. Behind the scenes, it's a database. And I love it. I think it's great. It tells us about what we do. And so I'm nerding out on it. People don't. Not everybody feels that way.
And you have some great stories for us coming up in a second, but quickly I want to ask, you mentioned that Extension is part of a larger national program, obviously, and so is the data that you collect, is that go into the national kind of forum, or is it for Vermont specifically?
Yeah, both, yes and. So we receive funding from the United States Department of Ag and through the National Institute of Food and Agriculture annually each year. And so part of the deal, right, with receiving this money is that we're held accountable, right, to the money that we receive. And so, yes, we report back nationally to NIFA, but then also to the state, right, and to the taxpayers, and because we receive state dollars as well. So yes, did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Great.
And now let's jump into some of those stories. One of the topics that we talk about here on Fence a lot, and that I actually love talking about, is invasive plants and different invasive species. Okay. And you were saying that outreach is like a huge part of that, and you actually have a story of how UVM Extension has kind of contributed to approaching that topic.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things that gets entered into pairs are these success stories. So I picked 3, and we're going to talk about those. So this story is from Gwen Kozlowski, who's in our Urban and Community Forestry program. She's
friend of the show, too.
Friend of the show. She's their volunteer coordinator. And the story that she was talking about was their Vermont Invasives website, so vtinvasives.org, which sounds like y'all are familiar with. This was a collaborative effort to create this system, this website with the Vermont Department of Forests, Parks and Rec, and the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. And it's a central hub, right, where there's resources. If you have a question, if you found a bug that you're not sure about, you can go to the website, check it out, see if it's invasive or not. But the impact, the thing I want to talk about, is that since 2017, this website has served over 300,000 unique viewers or users. And you've talked about the emerald ash borer, right? So an invasive wood-boring beetle. The first detection of the emerald ash borer was submitted through that website, through their reporting system, which alerted all state agencies to coordinating a rapid response. So that's huge, really.
Yeah,
that
very tangible impact.
Totally. There's a place that folks can go to make others aware of these invasive species, right? And then the second thing I wanted to say about this is that, there's a newsletter that goes out to about 2,000 subscribers, and in 2014, January 2024, there was an article on the European spindle tree, and also another invasive species. And so after reading this newsletter, a member of the Dummerson Conservation Commission reported the presence of this tree was on his property, and it'd been there for a couple of years. He had no idea what it was, but because he was receiving those newsletters, he realized what it was, and he was able to submit it, and now he has an effective way of managing it, or he's going to remove it, or he did this spring. Great. So.
And now let's talk a little bit about volunteerism. We spoke about it on Fence earlier this year, but what can you tell us about people who volunteer with Extension?
Okay, well, they're awesome. First of all, I mean, Extension really couldn't do so much of what we do without the help of community members and volunteers. So, I think we have so part of pairs is folks enter the number of people that are volunteering and the number of hours that they've donated. So you can see that, I think, on the screen there. But you've had 4-H on the show, I think, 4-H members.
Yes, absolutely.
Totally, so much 4-H. So you know that volunteers are a huge component, especially of the club program, but also of different events that 4-H has. And so I wanted to talk about, this story was submitted by Wendy Sorrell, who's our 4-H livestock educator. And she told us about 4 Vermont 4-H teens who had the opportunity to represent Vermont in the annual North American International Livestock Exposition 4-H Dairy Quiz Ball. That's a lot.
Wow.
They placed, out of 14 teams, they placed 3rd. For the second year in the row, they were in the top 3.
Incredible.
And so that in itself is great, because these are youth who are learning about dairy and showing off their knowledge, and maybe even laying the groundwork for a future career or building that confidence.
I want to make sure we get to all of them. Do you mind telling me quickly about the scrub program that you also do as well?
Yes. Okay, but volunteers are important. Great. Okay. Hans Estrin submitted this. He's our Produce Safety Accreditation Program Coordinator. SCRUB stands for Sanitizing and Cleaning Resources for Your Business. So buy local, big, right? In Vermont, we have a lot of small farmers and who've like figured out their way to have food safety in their work. But the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, kind of changed practices for a lot of people, or made there were a new set of guidelines that came about that were really designed for large scale producers. And so our smaller farmers were left with not a lot of resources out there to understand how to implement these best practices on their farms. And so this SCRUB project solved that problem, really, like developed a whole series of resources for small farmers, small producers to know these best practices. Okay, so the impact. So a total of 151 farms have reported adopting new or improved produce safety practices because of the resources they've gotten through SCRUB. And these farms manage over 2,000 acres of vegetables and 1.4 million square feet of greenhouse vegetable production with an estimated aggregate annual sales of 43.7 million. So we're talking, I mean, that's big stuff. That's big impact, all with the purpose of providing safer, more, good food, right?
Absolutely. And we're almost out of time, but I just want to quickly ask, for Vermont taxpayers who are helping to contribute to this, can you talk about why this data is so important for them, why they should care?
Well, I think, everyone's tax dollars contribute to Extension, and so there's reason right there to care, but also the things that we are addressing in Extension are things that we're addressing problems of Vermont, right?
Sure. Things that impact them.
Yeah, so whether they're involved in the programs or not, hopefully the difference that we're making is felt, right?
All right.
Statewide and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And that wraps up another Across the Fence. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX for making our program possible. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.